You an African? Come close. Now, did you know that from 476 AD to 700 AD, 80% of Europeans were illiterate and were unhygienic? The various queens in Europe bathed once in a month. It was when 6,700 of African ancestors called Moors and 300 Arabs invaded Europe, precisely Spain and Portugal, in 711 AD, that the Europeans started having a taste of civilization, which paved the way for their Renaissance and Industrial Revolution. African ancestors quickly built 600 public bathrooms for the Europeans. It was Africans who taught them how to wash their body using chemicals invented in Egypt and Ethiopia. Europeans don't even know what is public bathroom until it was built for them by the Africans. Did your African children also know that the Europeans never had any standard educational system? It was Africans who built and taught in the prestigious University of Salamanca, built in 1134 to 1218 for the Europeans, and they also built extra 17 universities. The first teachers and lecturers of Oxford and Cambridge were first educated by African ancestors in the University of Salamanca. Now, we should understand that over 75% of the kings and queens in Europe before African invasion and colonization in 711 AD could not read and write. Their illiteracy was so high that it was black African women from Egypt and Ethiopia who started teaching those royalties how to read and write. We must tell our African children that the founders of both Oxford and the University of Paris were inspired to bring higher education to their countries in Europe after visiting the European kingdoms ruled and controlled by these black Africans called Moors. I want you to pay attention to this. Now, before December 639 AD, there was nothing like Islam in Africa. Islam came into Africa through North Africa, where the Arab Muslims invaded Egypt and conquered it in 640 AD. Africans around North Africa were later Islamized by these Arab Muslims, which also marked the beginning of the Arab slave trade. It was these Africans who invaded Europe in 711 AD with the support of their Arab Muslims. When the Africans and the Arabs were finally defeated in 1492 and pushed out of Europe, they converted the remaining Africans to slaves. Now, the first slaves that were brought into America did not come from Africa, but from Spain and Portugal. It was the Catholic Church through Bartolome de las Casas, who was a Catholic priest, and the Portuguese who started the enslavement of Africans. This is the untold history our history lecturers in Africa have failed to teach our African children, because most of them are Christians and they are protecting their faiths. If you don't know your yesterday, then your today and tomorrow is determined by your former slave masters.